We have to find a way to persuade Barton. For me, this was even harder than predicting the variations of Earth's weather. That was because I didn't even know from what angle to approach him. Money would be outright removed from the options. He would never agree to the amount of money we could prepare in our own means. If we bought out the rotary presses and an overwhelming amount of money, then the losses currency options would easily kill everyone's interests. Sob stories wouldn't work on him, so trying to persuade him by saying the lunar surface was at risk of collapse would not work either. After all, Barton had acted after considering this possibility. He wasn't the type to take orders or instructions from anyone. He just pushed through his own whims. I realised in blank amazement that this is why Chris admired him so much. He was so cutthroat, it was laughable. I wrote a few possibilities down on my tablet, erased them with a gesture, and then started over. After a bit I noticed the room had grown dim. So I closed my text editor, opened the stock market. Howard Brothers stock price had dropped by 12% since yesterday, and was at 32. Since all financial institutions are prey to harsh drops, 12% was very steep, but prices did not stand out that much. Tomorrow's earnings announcement would probably hold for a few days. However, as Wallace said, someone would certainly expose a deception. Anyone can see it. It was obviously rotten. And then it fell on us to find miraculous ways to turn the state of the market upside down within a few days. My sense of reason was tugging at me, asking if such a thing was really possible. Of course not. But with Eleanor at my side, I've been able to force even Avalon to collapse. 3 years ago, before I met Eleanor, if someone had asked me if I saw myself standing where I am now, I would certainly answered, of course not. If someone had asked me if it was possible to destroy the lunar surface purely via economic means, I would have answered, absolutely not. But Hagana was actually about to succeed in that very endeavour. A thinker from long ago said that people tended to think the biggest thing had borne witness to was a big thing that could exist in the world. And reality has always suppressed imagination. Clinging to that belief, I had no choice but to keep on thinking, to find a way out of a desperate situation. Where are you going? As I stood up, Hagana spoke. I'm going to turn on the light. Oh. At those words, it seemed Hagana finally noticed that the room had become quite dark. With a chuckle, I walked up to a wall and had a realisation. The lunar surface's dome was displaying an evening sky, and the city was tinted red. The closer you got to the extremity of the dome, the more purple would go to indigo, a strange combination of colours that held sort of sadness, but also gave a sense of warmth. Within this mixture of colours, the skyscrapers of the lunar surface were starting to light up. Something different from both night and day scenery. A truly unique sight was emerging. As I was bewitched by this view of the lunar surface, Hagana came to my side. What are you looking at? The scene of the city. This is my birthplace. The words that slipped from my mouth surprised even me. After the deal of a medical report, I was forced to think about what the lunar surface was. I'd never thought about it before, but apparently I cared for this place a great deal. More than just the place where I was born and raised. It might just have been when my mind was reaching the understanding that the situation was completely hopeless, and it might well be the very last time I looked at it. It's beautiful. Yes, it is. Again, I exchanged some brief words. Say, what is it? Let's say a miracle occurs and this whole mess gets sorted out. Don't look like that, but right now things are pretty bleak, or you're saying you're about to make a breakthrough. As I asked in a deliberately flippant tone, she hung her head in shame. I quickly corrected myself. Okay, not a miracle. Let's say our efforts resolve this whole mess. Then what? Then, where would you... No, I mean, in which place would you choose to live your life? She gazed at me, looking as though she hadn't understood the question. What do you mean? I mean, you also have a birthplace, right? It seemed it was a place where, when you looked up at the sky, you'd see a scene so beautiful you might think God had a hand in creating it. Nothing else about it seemed pretty enjoyable. But I thought to myself that for each of us, our birthplace was irreplaceable. If the lunar surface had collapsed like this, even if people couldn't live there anymore, we had to live on. As I thought about where I might live, nothing in particular sprang to mind, so I thought about living in Hagana's birthplace. Might not be so bad. I like the lunar surface better. Really? She nodded. I have memories here after all. And clumsily she took my hand in hers, and that's why I wanted to erase it all. I once again realised what a horrible thing I'd done to her. But for once, Hagana didn't stop speaking and pressed on. And one can always see the lunar surface from Earth. It's like you said, Hal. What did I say? But one couldn't run away from their past. The lunar surface is a satellite of the Earth, after all. No matter where you go, you'll see it. Indeed. Even if the lunar surface lacked in history, it was about to reach 25 years. A lot had happened. No matter how much the city's appearance changed, there were places where it hadn't changed. Those memories would never ever go away. But I guess I'd only want a few select people to remain on the surface. As I muttered this, I felt Hagana's hand, still holding mine, shudder a little. I'm not blaming you. I'm talking about the people who fled the lunar surface right after a medical report came out. To be honest, I felt sad and frustrated. I thought deep down that this place was far more attractive than any place on Earth. I think so too. Chris said the same thing. Chris had said some cheekiness. Where else do you think it's possible to lead that successful of a career? Perhaps precisely the shape of one of those dreams that tied people to the lunar surface, despite their better judgment. And that got me thinking a bit. About what? About people who love the lunar surface gathering together and bringing money to a table to stave off this crisis, something like that. I was thinking that if companies and funds from all over the lunar surface, all the people who had it good here, all gave some of their money, that could solve a problem. If they really love the lunar surface, then that kind of thing should be alright, don't you think? Besides, bank runs occur because people try to protect their own fortune. Of course I was aware that it was just an idyllic ideal. Well, it's only a stupid idea. As I said that with a laugh, Hagana suddenly said out the blue, "It's not stupid." Huh? How? Don't you know? She looked at me quizzically, and I gazed back at Hagana, dumbfounded. The one who used to be a prodigy girl full of openings, who would take everything at face value, said this. That's what you call taxes. But I also know it happened just as I was about to talk back. No, that's taxes. Hagana looked frustrated, twisting her face as if she was in pain. Well, she never was one to speak much. She couldn't express her thoughts eloquently. When I was reading up on currency options, I learnt a lot about exchange. And about currency. It said that when you don't have assets to back its value, like solid gold, then its value is the ability to collect taxes. This would be equivalent to a proceeds of a company where the company is a government. In a way, a government was like a stock certificate. A currency was like a stock certificate of a government, and more its balance was in the back, the more value it had. In the current state of a world, where one was free to live and go where they pleased, one reason people lived on the lunar surface was because their taxes were cheap. In other words, this was the reason why the proposal of printing banknotes was a double-edged sword that could destroy the lunar surface. But was it really the case? Was it really the biggest reason to living on the lunar surface? What if it was not the case? Weren't we overlooking something very important? No, but wait, in that case, then maybe. I felt something was about to click in my head. It even felt like I was about to reach some perfect shining thing I'd been able to see for 8 years, but never touched until now. What was it? What was this feeling? As I was searching frantically for what it was, my tablet rang. Did Risa call me because she'd forgotten something? Such were my thoughts in 1 second, but I realised this was a mere futile thinking on my part. The recorder was, of all people, the king of pessimism, Wallace. Hello? I bet you're not expecting my score to be good news. What, are you going to tell me you're good at calling from heaven or something? Ha! I should be so lucky. Can't see the news on your tablet? Has been some movement? As I gave my eyes to Hagana, who was listening next to me. She nodded and opened the screen on a laptop. Her face was expressionless as usual, but just as Risa's smiles had several variations, but could express different emotions, Agano's blank expression had similar variations. What I could read in her expression was surprise and anguish. An emergency projection has been released in anticipation of Howard Bower's earnings announcement tomorrow. It's terribly pessimistic. They're predicting losses valuated above 7 billion more on real estate related positions. What? I was rendered speechless. Was this leak caused by Barton's insiders? But what would be the reason for shaking Howard Brothers? Doing that would only bring the lunar surface closer to collapse. As I looked at a news screen with a look of despair on my face, my gaze went to a name of a person who had written in my earnings projection report. I'd seen the name before. It belonged to a man who introduced himself as an independent securities analyst, based in Wall Street, the biggest trading district on Earth. Iceman. It was that analyst who had teamed up with Avalon to corner Eleanor. In the course of Avalon's collapse, he had managed to avoid arrest and prosecution, but because of several business ethics violations, he had been fired from Howard Brothers. It could have been to take revenge on his former employer, or to satisfy some miserable sense of his self-importance. Maybe it was his conscience as an analyst, which revealed himself in such a critical moment. In any case, just as with stock purchases, there had to be someone who sold them. Doing that was how the world worked. I understood that doing stock trading could lead to one bear witness of outrageous acts. But could he have picked another moment for that? I was holding my tablet so hard in my hands it was creaking. It's over. We can't do anything about it anymore. The President's currently talking with Seishi about who to recommend as a director of a central bank. We were out of options. I looked at Hagana. She was pale as a sheet. Her gaze locked on display. Really? Are we out of options? If we had lots of time, maybe. There's also a problem with currency options. Didn't Marco tell you it's a gamble? I guess it's better to die and take action than sitting around waiting for death to come. Come to think of it, Eleanor also said she couldn't get used to a spaceship's automatic pilot. That's maybe why it was just the nature of investors. To believe we're opening a path to a future of our own hands. If we weren't fools who believed fantasies completely, we wouldn't be able to survive in this world. I understand your frustration, though. We are but civilians, and we merely spend our lives trying to walk around with the system in the best way. We're in no position to do anything about the collapse of the system itself. What was the pessimism in King of Pessimism meant? If I can speak. Please do not take your anger out on me. Accept reality. You should brace for the shock of a crash of the lunar surface economy. Oh, also, about a director's seat or a central bank. My name and yours are listed as candidates. After all, it will cause problems to put someone there who has ties with some company. What will you do? I wouldn't mind taking a seat, anyhow. I don't have long to live. You can't complain about what a dead man did, after all. Or so Seishi says. She hit the nail on the head. She sure is a skilled one. Wise chuckled as he spoke. I felt ready to drop to my knees, still clutching my tablet in my hands. Deciding to use a rotary press might be very well end up killing a patient in order to cure a disease. I had no idea whether to call it a courageous decision or a foolish act. However, even if there was no other option, results were everything in this world. I was about to hurl from my own egotism. I didn't want to become a person responsible for putting the trigger on the lunar surface's collapse. I felt relief in Wallace's proposition, and for that I felt murderous urges towards myself. Well, I can hazard a guess as to what's paining you. You are an investor? Pick the best path. This is a selfish world. It's not a bad thing. You still have a lot to look forward to. You don't need to bear this dishonour. How? Thanking God that Wallace was not right in front of me, I cursed myself for creating such a mask of myself. Your gamble and protection work too as well, right? Doctor. Are we in agreement about me taking the director's seat then? I shall press the button on the rotary press in my name. This will make you a free man. Old Beardy was in turmoil too. Before he's too crawling to trust the lunar surface to you 3 times. Besides, the culprit is the one who built up Avalon, isn't he? I heard his name too, for nothing else. Realised it made sense. Pressing the button on the rotary press would end up causing literal bombing of banknotes on Barton's scheme. This could blow up what was likely the biggest conspiracy in the history of human history. Just like blowing on a fire to put it out. I don't know if we'll have a time to set a constellation party, But I'll make a reservation at 25. Doctor! Well, it seems like this is the end. For dreams of lunar surface? Well, it was fun while it lasted. It was fun without the call ended. I felt like I'd been forced to confront with the fact that our hopes had been extinguished. Our contact, Hagana contact. I wonder how long the silence that dominated the room lasted. I ended up being the first to speak. A fine hero of the lunar surface I am. I yelled, throwing my tablet on the ground. A fine hero of the lunar surface I am. In the end, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't convince Chris, as for Barton. I couldn't even find an opportunity to try to persuade him. The economy of the lunar surface collapsed and my mall crashed. I would also lose all my assets. I obtained a fortune comparable to Pharaoh's. And how, just like that, things were completely turned upside down. How fitting for a world of finance. Besides, for people who were actually working and sweating, and actually had a job with a purpose that was useful to people, this was really a disaster. Because of some financial product they had nothing to do with, that they'd never heard about, and couldn't understand, or lose everything they had built up until now, be forcibly repatriated to reality called Earth. Those who had taken part in it in some way, who could see what was happening from box seats, were probably actually blessed. But I couldn't even cry over how horrible this result was. No matter the circumstances that led to it. It was just so swift. And even swifter and more confounding than what A.J. Rockberg had bargained to buy Paul Stairs. Even so, the lunar surface would probably end as one page of Earth's history, merely saying that the social experiment was a failure. Lost in anger, despondency and despair, I wasn't able to move, but there was someone there to hold my hand. It was none other than Hagana.